Welcome to the True Flow Technology Series by NDD. Today we are going beyond the boundaries with Dr. Pierpaolo Prosperi and Luca Roberti. They are key investigators in the Pyramid and Physiology 2024 on Nepal's Pyramid Project. The program aims to assess baseline lung function in expedition participants using NDD's EasyOne Pro for spirometry and DLCO testing at high altitude. It also includes exhaled CO detection and arterial blood gas analysis. Dr. Pierpaolo Prosperi specializes in respiratory physiopathology and sleep-disordered breathing, working at Pescara Hospital with expertise in spirometry and high-altitude respiratory research in collaboration with the University of Chieti. Luca Roberti has been a sleep apnea patient for nearly a decade and founded the Italian Apneic Association in 2016 to advocate for patients and collaborate with international scientific societies like the ERS and AASM. He also serves as the national expert at EMA and was appointed to Italy's National Coordination Center for Ethics Committees. Well, we'll start with the first question. Can you please provide an overview of your study?
Yeah, thank you for inviting us on this webinar. Our participation in the Pyramids and Physiology 2024 expedition was born after an idea and experience made 2 years before in Nepal by Pierpaolo Prosperi and Professor Verratti. Being a mountain lover, I proposed to participate in this new expedition with all the risk involved. With Vittorio Florio is our volunteers and patient, and we are also patient with sleep apnea. This expedition was organized by Professor Verratti, is a principal investigator and expedition leader of the project. He's also professor at University of Chieti. As you have seen the photo, the expedition team was very heterogeneous and made up with 21 people. Physiologists, respiratory pathophysiologists, technicians like Pierpaolo, physiatrics, psychiatrics, sport doctor, nutritionists, a very large group of medical students. The expedition sought to support by 3 Sherpa guides and 11 porters for the luggage and the old staff and scientific equipment. The group between round trip made a trek of 150 kilometers, starting at altitude from Kathmandu at 1,350 meters to the pyramid at 5,050 meters. Also, we did a trek both on Everest Base Camp, 5,300 meters, and some like me to the Kalapatara, is called the Black Rock, 5,650 meters. The objective of this expedition was to carry out numerous scientific tests in addition to the validation of the questionnaire of mountain sickness. We are an apneic group, me and Vittorio, also other patient, but we are focused on respiratory physiology test and sleep test. We are use your ProLab device, also night oximeter and on-sleep apnea test.
No, that's fantastic. What an interesting study. I'm a respiratory therapist myself, so anytime I get to see some of these unique applications, it's really exciting. And what is the significance of studying sleep apnea in these high altitude regions?
The study of sleep apnea 2024 is the continuation of work started in 2022 with the University of Chieti and directed, also say Luca, by Professor Vittorio Verratti, again of this laboratory, AV-CNRK2 Pyramid. This laboratory is the highest in the world, 5,000 meters about, and is near the base camp of Mount Everest of the Nepalese side. In the previous expedition, we highlighted that the high altitude promoted this disorder, the apnea, even in healthy subjects. In the 2024 study, we did not focus only on this disorder, but analyzed 70 of 21 participants, detected various parameters, arterial blood gases, spirometry, DLCO, diffusion lung capacity, nocturnal and daytime pulse oximetry, and cardiorespiratory monitoring by night to detect sleep apnea.
Oh, yeah. And how did you utilize the EasyOne Pro in this study, or the Pro Lab in this case?
The EasyOne Pro is utilized by the measurement of spirometry and the diffusion lung capacity. As you can well imagine, is extremely interesting focus this because the respiratory in high altitude is lower, and is extremely interesting focus in this condition. EasyOne Pro, thanks to its compactness and ease of use, was an excellent supporter for collecting this data. Is more easy to transport and collect this data in different altitude.
Yeah, and that kind of leads right into the next question. You mentioned the compact size, that kind of the ease of being able to take it on this expedition. But are there any other reasons that you chose the EasyOne Pro specifically for this project?
Okay, thank you. The choice of EasyOne Pro took place a few months before the expedition and the departure. Clearly, we were looking for DLCO and spirometry portable device that we had the characteristic of quality, weight, and handling also. Given the difficulty, no without pitfalls route we would face. Initially, we had selected two models, but quickly we chose to continue with your device, the EasyOne Pro, due to the available of your team. In particular, for having proposed up the test and simulate the altitude of 5,000 meters in the hyperbaric chamber. This was very important for us, so that we will not risk filing the altitude test without prior simulation test.
So how has the EasyOne Pro performed in these conditions?
The use to collect the data with the EasyOne Pro was simple, but surrounded by a lot of logistical problems related to the transport of gas cylinder, an odyssea, and for measuring the DLCO. While at high altitude, we had to work to try to maintain the temperature suitable for the device to operate. The temperature is a great problem in high altitude, and this technology have some little problem. For me, a compliment must be paid to NDD specialist who supported we very well remotely. Tempestively, a great support. Thank you.
Yeah. And, you mentioned a little bit more just then, but what challenges would you face performing lung function testings in these conditions? You mentioned the temperature, kind of the logistics of the gas tank, but what are some other challenges that you guys faced during these testing?
Okay, as Pierpaolo said, the biggest challenge we faced for this type of test was very high. It was certainly primarily the logistic one, because bringing a cylinder with a quaternary mixture for DLCO at 5,000 meters in Nepal was not very easy. Initially, we had the cylinder prepared in Germany by a big home care provider, but given the long preparation and delivery time, many months, we turned to speak with a distributor and manufacturer in India. But also another problem regarding the floods in Nepal. Many delay for the distribution. There were huge delay in delivery and in the end to the order to meet the set dates. Thanks to the Professor Mishra of the Kathmandu Medical College, we borrowed a cylinder, both to use it of the test in Kathmandu at the KMC, also in altitude in the pyramids, which for logistic and safety reason, we had to transport not by trekking, but by helicopter from Kathmandu to pyramid. Clearly, the altitude and the physical exertion in participant and test volunteers also had an influence. Since above certain altitude of 3,500 meters, there is a tendency to desaturate significantly.
Oh, yeah. And do you have any preliminary findings from your research that you could share with us so far?
Yes. Obviously, we observed an important decrease of oxygen values and the onset of important central apneic event after a certain altitude. Spirometry and RCO values showed a small variation as your organism because the wonderful adaptation of the man at the altitude managed to balance the reduction of arterial alveolar gradient and the partial percentage of oxygen breathed. For example, hyperventilation, the increase of hemoglobin, and the Haldane effect. All these effects make a balance of the spirometry and the LCO values. The adaptation is wonderful.
Yeah. And how do you think these findings could impact the treatment or management of sleep apnea in these high altitude areas?
Yeah, as Per Paolo anticipated, beside Nepal, many trekking enthusiasts people frequent altitude above 3,400 meters, not only in Nepal, but also in Pakistan, China, Europe, and South America. Often, as we have noted, these people venture out without having a particular focus on how their physique or any pure illness may affect or increase the risk of developing central apnea in the major way. With this first two study we performed, which we hope will be followed by future expedition in other continents, device maybe can be mitigate this problem. It shows us the person who at low altitude does not have problem with the central apnea, above 3,400 meters develop significant central neurological sleep apnea. In one specific case, we see they went a person. They went with 25 apnea per hour, obstructive apnea, but in altitude develop 104 apnea per hour, predominantly central sleep apnea. I cannot anticipate the full data that we are analyzing now, but through the medication and possible use of combination with medical device, this temporary condition can be alleviated. That certainly could create problem in one stays at high altitude for too many days, clearly worsening physical performance. Clearly, since sleep apnea is very common condition in about 20-25% of the population in the age 40-60, many trekkers don't even know they are affected or this problem or develop in high altitude.
Are there any other important findings or information to share as we wrap up?
High altitude treks are increasing frequent. Around 40,000 people go to the Everest Base Camp every year, without realizing that this can be very dangerous. Studying the ventricular response to high altitude can increase the knowledge of this topic and could reduce the numerous cases of acute mountain illness that we have unfortunately observed and helped in this trek, thanks to the great experience of Professor Verratti during this wonderful experience.
Right. Well, thank you both so much again for joining us and for answering these questions. It's such an exciting project, and we look forward to seeing even more information as you continue to study this issue. So thank you both for joining us.
Thank you to you and to Andy.